Imagine sitting at the board of the World Chess Championship and playing a move so incredible you dazzle the world and alter the course of chess history. These are those moves. At number 7, Queen d3 from Kramnik vs. Leko, 2004, Game 8. After Kramnik's 25, b takes a6, he has a dangerous passed pawn as compensation for being down a rook for a queen. Immediately, it might not look like there's a way through for black, but Leko found the very cool Queen d3, sneaking into the heart of white's position and, on the surface, allowing white a chance to queen their pawn. But it soon becomes clear white's king is actually in a mating net if he tries to queen. In the game, king f2 defends the f-pawn, but bishop takes f3 anyway. Knight takes f3, followed by knight e4 check. King to e1, and another piece sack with knight takes c3. B takes c3, queen takes c3 check, king f2, and queen takes a1 wins back material and covers the queening square. The game concluded after a few more moves with black's victory. Our 6th spot goes to 18a6 from Spassky vs. Petrosian in 1966, game number 7. We can see things really get going after Petrosian's 16th move, Queenside Castle, a classic opposite-sided castling battle. Who's going to crack first? Of course, Spassky has to go for it with 17a4. Typically, you don't want to move the pawns in front of your king, especially when your opponent is attacking. But Petrosian responded with c4, giving up control of the d4 square for white's pieces. But the point of his plan becomes clear after bishop e2 and the phenomenal follow-up a6. Now, this might not seem like much on the surface, but this move actually contains the essence of black's plan. No matter how white handles his a and b pawns, he won't be able to open lines on the queen side. An a-pawn push will be followed by a b-pawn push. A b-pawn push will be followed by an a-pawn push, locking everything up. This means, in Petrosian's words, that the game will now be played with only one pair of goalposts. So of course, in the game, Petrosian went on to win. Our number 5 spot goes to knight h5 from Fischer vs. Spassky, 1972, Game 3. Boris Spassky did eventually end up becoming world champion, and here we have one of his games against the legendary Bobby Fischer. In Game 3 of their world championship match, Fischer's 11th move might be questionable, but over the board it brought him great success. And not to mention, no other move on this list has inspired a t-shirt. Knight h5 in this position, the move itself is delightfully paradoxical, offering Spassky the chance to wreck Fischer's pawn structure in return for activity and Fischer's beloved bishop pair. It's a creative approach, and if nothing else, it pays off in that Spassky spent 25 minutes deciding on his next move. Fischer intends f5, which will activate his pieces and create chaos. Bishop takes h5, g takes h5, knight c4, knight e5, knight e3, queen h4, and Spassky's bishop d2 here was a bit too passive, letting Fischer eventually take home the win. Number 4, knight g2 from Karpov vs. Kasparov, 1984, game number 9. We have a relatively simple endgame after Kasparov's 46th move, g takes h4. Most players wouldn't even consider any other move other than g takes h4 right back. The problem here is that there are no inroads for the white king. f5 is the only access point, and it can always be covered by black's light-squared bishop. So in the game, Karpov played the paradoxical knight g2. It might even take the engines a few seconds to see that this is the best move. It gives Karpov the space he needs to work his king into the h-file. With this road into black's position, white's good knight, and active monarch, white can best black's passive king and bishop. To be sure, technique is still required here, but this positional idea let Karpov take home the win in this game. Our number 3 spot goes to knight d7 from Kasparov vs. Karpov in 1986, game 22. After Karpov's 40th move, rook d2, attacking white's d-pawn, defending with rook b4 is quite passive. So Kasparov played the game-sealing knight d7, just giving up the pawn. But Kasparov had everything worked out. Rook takes d4, followed by knight f8 check, and king h6, not wanting to deal with any discoveries on the back rank. Only now rook b4. The incredible point is that black's pieces are entirely unable to unwind after the exchange of black's only active piece, the rook, and the king has no space to move. Rook c4, rook takes c4, d takes c4, queen d6, c3, queen d4. You can't keep pushing the pawn since a queen check is absolutely devastating. Black can only try 46 bishop h7, but the position is lost after queen takes c3 when black still has no good way to cover the c1 to h6 diagonal. At number 2, knight b3 from Kasparov versus Anand in 1995, game number 10. After Anand's 14th move, queen takes c3, with white's rook attacks, maybe rook b1 is in order? Nope, Kasparov responds with knight b3. Which is crazy because you're offering up the rook for free after knight takes b3 and bishop takes b3. If you take the rook now, however, white has queen h5 check, g6, and queen f3, pinning the knight to the rook. So in the game, Anand plays knight d4, queen g4, still offering up the rook, and this time Anand takes it with the queen. Bishop takes e6, and the black king is starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. Rook d8, bishop h6 with a discovery against black's queen. Queen c3 runs away, bishop takes g7. You can't take back, otherwise you're getting mated. So queen d3, bishop takes h8, queen g6. Anand survives the initial assault, but the result is a lost endgame. At number 1, knight f4 from Botvinnik versus Tal, 1960, game 6. It's rare for a player to so perfectly sum up his approach to chess in a single move. But 21 knight f4 ! Question mark encompassed everything Mikhail Tal stood for in chess. The daring and seemingly out-of-the-blue piece sacrifice is not entirely correct, but it posed insurmountable problems over the board. G takes f4, E takes f4. A3 would have won the game here, but Botvinnik played bishop d2. After queen takes b2, rook on a to b1 hits the queen, f3 hits the queen right back. Rook takes b2 was the critical mistake. F takes e2, rook b3, rook d4. Suddenly things collapse for Botvinnik, who is overstretched defending d2, c3, and the promotion of the e-pawn. You can check out the positions for yourself on Chess.com. But did you know these moves aren't even close to the best chess moves of all time? Click the video right here to check them out. We'll see you in that one.